In the following video, we're going to examine the two types of inequalities that you will solve when dealing with absolute value inequalities. Just like when you solve an absolute value equation, you create two equations. So when you solve an absolute value inequality, you're going to create two inequalities. And these inequalities look like the two examples below. The first one, you can read it as 9 is less than 3x plus 6, which is less than 15. You could also read it as 3x plus 6 is between 9 and 15. To solve this type of compound inequality, we refer to this one as an AND compound inequality. What I do is I kind of use the same approach as I would when solving an equation. I look at it as, how do I get the x by itself in the middle? So I get rid of any addition or subtraction first, so I'm going to subtract 6. So just like an equation, if you subtract 6 from one side, you have to do it to the other. However, I have two outsides, so I'm going to have to subtract 6 from both outsides. 9 minus 6 is 3, 15 minus 6 is 9, and the 6 and negative 6 cancel. So I'm left with my 3x in the middle. And I continue. How do I get rid of the coefficient of 3? I divide by 3. And so if I do it to the middle, I'm going to have to do it to both outsides. 3 and the 3 cancel. That gives me the x in the middle. 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So in solving this type of compound inequality, this AND inequality, we use the approach of whatever you do in the middle to isolate the variable, which involves the same steps as solving an equation or an equality, you have to do to both outsides now. The other type of inequality, compound inequality, that we'll be looking at examining and creating for absolute value inequalities is one like this, where it says x minus 3 is greater than 1, or x plus 2 is less than 1. We refer to this compound inequality as an OR inequality. Kind of makes sense based off of what we see here. So to solve an OR inequality, this was pretty basic. What you do is you have two separate inequalities, and so you solve them separately. So the first one, I would add 3 to cancel out the minus 3 here and get x is greater than 4. I would subtract 2 in this inequality to get the x by itself. So x is less than negative 1. So x is either greater than 4 or x is less than negative 1. So this is how we will approach solving the two types of compound inequalities created when solving an absolute value inequality.